If I had to give my opinion on what is the biggest problem that most people experiencing that is common to many people. Maybe I phrased my question a little bit not so clear. There's many bad things now that we all need to deal with. But one thing is big and it's common to many, many people. If I would be asked this question, my answer would be uncertainty. Most people, they're dealing in some aspect in their life with some type of uncertainty. Half of it, or, well, I'm being very generous by saying half, but let's say for the sake of the example, half of it is they have no control over it. About the other half, you can control that. And when I said I was being very, very generous, because maybe 10% you have no control over and 80% you can control. This uncertainty in your life. Now the uncertainty, listen, I can give you now 500 different examples. Just in the last week, many different people who urgently needed to talk to me. The uncertainty went from what's going to be in the war in Israel, is it's really a ceasefire, it's going to continue. Now the Syria, what's going to be with the Houthim, what's going to be with this, what's going to be with that. That's one type of uncertainty that can drive a lot of people crazy. And then a different uncertainty, should I marry this, should I date this guy, should I not this guy, this, he said this, he said that, all this craziness when it comes to dating. And then the uncertainty can be in so many different ways. Now I was bombarded the last week. Oh, the drones in America, the drones. What's happening? Should we run away from America? Are they bombing us? What's going on here? All day long I would get urgent messages. What are the drones? Relax. You know how many messages in the last week I got? Should we leave the USA right now? Well, I've been telling you to leave the USA 10 years ago. I mean right now. Now? So there's a lot of uncertainty in, worldly things. Oh no, what's going to be Trump coming in, America? I mean, there's so much uncertainty. There's uncertainty in worldly matters, as in also uncertainty in my personal matters. But if I would have to answer this type of question, what is a big problem that I see right now that's going on, that needs to be addressed and also needs to be guided to be reduced, that is common to many, many people, I would say most people, they live in some type of uncertainty. Now, could be that any one of you says, let me scan my brain. No, I'm pretty okay. I'm in that 10-20% that you said that I have no control over. I'm going to know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen in a second and a half. So this uncertainty has nothing to do with me. But many of the little things, why are you even wasting your time on that? And most of it, that's why I said before I was generous. Let's say 20% is you don't have control of, 80% you have control of. A big uncertainty that I hear all the time is with the livelihood, with the parnasa. Should I invest here? Should I invest here? What should I do here? I'm not making money. My business is going bad. Should I do this? This uncertainty, and maybe I'm using even the wrong word. There's no bitachon, no security, no person is relaxed. I see most people are. And when it comes to making money, that's one that falls under everybody. Now especially people are worried what's going to be next, what's going to be with the economy of the world, how am I going to make money, I'm going to move my money from here. Bottom line, there's a lot of uncertainty. So B'ezrat Hashem, in this class, we're going to touch a little nerve that will hopefully, I find the message very powerful, but hopefully will shed some light on every individual how to bring this strong certainty and live your life in a calm, secure, and happy way. So before we start the class, I just want to dedicate the class Leilui Nishmat, to the elevation of the soul of Avraham Yehosha ben Sultana. It's his third yahrzeit. Bezrat Hashem should have aliyat neshama. And Kitzu ve'eranu shochne afar vehu betocham. And any other soul that needs aliyat neshama and refuah to Am Yisrael. And everybody else. So, we're in Parashat Miketz. We're still in the drama, we're still in the soap opera of the book of Bereshit. Action going on every second, you don't even know from when the next thing is going to happen. Last week, Yosef is a prisoner, now Yosef is a second to the king. And Yosef goes through a long way of hardship to where he reached. Really, when you're thinking about it, Yosef is a model that shows us power and strength, and he shows us a few very strong, powerful points that, of course, it doesn't mean that if I follow them, I will become a second to the king. But Yosef is teaching us, you follow these points, you'll reach to the level of your kingship, where you need to rule. Whether it's your trade, whether it's in your home, you'll reach to the level of rulership. And really, when you're looking at the life of Yosef, okay, maybe first 17 years he was kind of spoiled in his father's house, but nevertheless he was picked on all day long by his brothers. Then he gets kidnapped by his brothers. Then he gets sold to a convoy of Arabs. Then he's getting thrown to the house of Potiphar. Then he goes to jail. And what he goes through in jail. So Yosef goes through a lot of problems, but nevertheless they made him who he was. They elevated him, they made him bigger, stronger, smarter, and they basically refined him. They brought him to where he was supposed to be. Can you imagine him being in the position, the second to the king, without his experience? You know, when we're young, we think that I can do anything and I know it all. I always look back when I was young and I was a know-it-all. At the age of 16, I was already counting the millions that I'm going to make in 10 years. My father would look at me and laugh. You don't even have 1,000 shekels. You're already counting millions that you'll make in 10 years. But I knew it. I had it all planned well in my mind. And when you're young, you're stupid. So most of what you plan don't work. And then that's where you start breaking all the rules, because going by the rules doesn't work always like you planned. And my father would always tell me the same thing, and I would be upset, and he would tell me, come to me, ask me, I have experience. Why are you going on all these adventures by yourself? You're young, inexperienced, stupid, I might say, and I'm 30 years older than you, I have experience. Come and ask somebody with experience. And when I was young, I didn't like listening to this because I wanted to do it myself. But when you get older, you're saying, En chacham keba'al hanisayon. Shlomo HaMelech says, King Solomon says, the wisest person is a person with experience. How many times do you say to yourself, oh, I wish I would know then what I know now? Well, that's experience. That's why a good doctor, he's old. A judge, a good judge, old. A scholar, old. You need the years. You need the experience. So Yosef had to go through a life of hell to reach to this gdula, to this greatness. But he had to go through it. The difference between Yosef and most people, that throughout the years of all the hell that he went through, he wasn't complaining. And that's what we need to focus on today. When a person is dealing with his difficulties all day long, because all day long Hashem is throwing towards you these surprise balls that you need to react. All these surprise balls, I call them, Hashem is just it's there for you to build you up. It's literally Hashem is taking you on a workout. Like, let's say now take a boxer, an MMA fighter. He has a big fight. Half a year sometimes the fighter will prepare. And they prepare physically to be fit, mentally, technically. You prepare for a fight. So when Hashem wants to give you a great level of success, then He needs to prepare you. Or you think you're just going to waltz into that moment of fame? Whether your success right now is a business, whether your success right now is to achieve your studies, whether your success right now is to just achieve your daily tasks, it doesn't matter. So Yosef comes and tells you, yeah, I knew I'm going to be the second to the king. I had prophetic dreams. But I also knew that there's a long way to cross to get it. So when a person is dealing with his hardship, no complaining, no whining, no blaming the entire world, then it's Hashem preparing him for a great level. That's how to take it. Now comes a big question. After we understand, okay, Yosef had to go through what he had to go through. And that's what I need to relate with, because we go through many different things. In most cases, you don't see your success in your 20s. Usually in your 40s, 50s, 60s, that's where you start reaping the fruits of your hard labor. Very few people, the level of success is high in a very young age. But nevertheless, now comes a big question, that here lies also the secret of how to achieve Yosef's approach. Because if I know that at the end, the result is going to be what Hashem wants, and the challenges and the difficulties that I go through is what Hashem going to decide anyways, but it's for me, my workout, that's what I need to work out for my big challenge. Because if I come to the big challenge and I didn't work it out, I didn't practice, I'll fail. Hashem is being nice to me. He's like, let's do it on small increments that you get used to. Like a workout. So all this we appreciate with Yosef. But now comes a big question that might come up to many. We understand that Yosef had to go through hardship to get to a great level. We understood the concept that to get to a great level of success, there's going to have to be sacrifices and there's going to have to be hard times for that. My question is, but why did Yaakov have to suffer? 22 years, Yaakov has suffered the disappearance of Yosef. Okay, we understood that Yosef had to go through it. But what does Yaakov have to do here? What did Yaakov do that he has to suffer the loss of a child, thinking he's dead, not knowing if he's dead, he is dead, he's not dead, and if he's not dead, he's captured. 22 years, Yaakov didn't have connection to Ruach HaKodesh because he was in a state of mourning. Ruach HaKodesh, the divine power, just disappeared. So my big question is, what did Yaakov have to do? Why is Yaakov, let's call it now in the level that many will understand and relate. What's Yaakov's karma that he had to deal with that? And why am I asking that? Because there's a good answer why Yaakov had to go through it. It's you that asks many times, why do I have to go through this? You're dealing with something. The reality right now that I don't know any person in the world, well, I don't know all the people in the world, but I have a pretty good guess. Most people in the world, they're dealing with not one thing, with a few things that are big in their life, a big challenge in their life, a big thing that is like distracting them, taking all their energy, all their focus, all their might, swinging them one day happy, one day not happy. Everybody has challenges and difficulties. Okay, and you ask yourself, what did I do? What did I do? Now, if you're smart, you psychoanalyze what's going on, so maybe you can get an answer. But here comes another question that we understand that Yosef had to go through what he had to go through, but why is Yaakov suffering? Why does Yaakov have to go through the suffering? Now, you have to understand, let's quickly review. Yosef is kidnapped and sold when he's 17 years old. He becomes the ruler of Mitzrayim when he's 30 years old. That's already 13 years old that he's not in his father's house. Then add on that 2 years of, 7 years when there was an abundance from that dream. From the time of the dream starts the 7 years of abundance. Add on that another 2 years of the famine, because only after 2 years of famine, it's when the brothers went down to Mitzrayim. That's 9. So Yosef was 39 years old when the brothers came and when he met his father. That's 22 years that Yaakov didn't see Yosef. And Yosef, of course, didn't see Yaakov, which we're not going to even address why Yosef didn't attempt to find them. What? Okay, you went out of jail. In jail, I understand, no internet. Fine. But now you're the ruler of Mitzrayim. 9 years, you can't even send your father something. We're not going to discuss it today. That's a whole different topic to talk about. But the fact is that from the time that Yosef becomes the leader of Mitzrayim, 9 years pass. Why didn't you make any attempt to reach out to your father? Part of the answer to that is the fact that, from the age of 17 to the age of 39, 22 years, absence of Yosef, Yaakov suffered tremendously. Rashi says a very simple and clear answer to push away your thoughts about why. Rashi says it's very simple. 22 years he was away from his parents and he didn't do kibud avim. He didn't honor his parents for 22 years. 22 years he didn't honor his parents. So 22 years he had to go through the hardship of Yosef. That in itself, first of all, comes and tells you what's the importance of honoring your parents. Because I know a lot of people have issues with that. You know, the honoring of your parents is not for nothing in the Ten Commandments. It's not like some okay, I'll be nice to my parents. That's the first bombshell that the Torah is throwing to you. So 22 years, Yaakov is not by his parents, 20 years by Lavan, and 2 years by, on the road from Lavan to Eretz Israel. For the fast thinkers, I will jump the gun and saying, what about the 14 years he was by Shem and Evel? That's another 14 years that he wasn't next to his parents. Rashi says, no, those 14 years he learned Torah day and night, so he doesn't have to pay for that. He doesn't have to pay for this time of not doing kibud avim because he was learning Torah day and night. Saying in other words, that if you learn Torah day and night, you send the child to yeshiva. Child is, I'm not saying that he's exempt from honoring his parents, but he's busy learning Torah. So Hashem says, learn Torah. So we see here, midah keneged midah, measure for measure. Yaakov didn't honor his parents, and he got, so to say, his own karma by suffering. Okay, now jump forward a little bit. In Tractate Kiddushin in the Talmud, page 31, there's a story. In the story, the Chachamim, the sages, have asked Rabbi Elazar, how far or to what extent honoring father and mother has to go to? Like, what's the power of kibud avim? So he tells them, Tzu'u et Dana ben Nitana. A certain individual at the time, who was a jewelry merchant, fine metal, stones and so forth. The name of the person was Dana ben Netina. And they told him, and Rabbi Elazar says, go and see the story of this individual. This individual had very precious stones, so our sages came to him and told him, we need to buy some fancy stones to put for the breastplate of the Kohanim, and we are willing to give you 60 shishim ribor. So that's 10,000, 60 times 10,000 of dinarei zahav. This is like me coming to you and asking for you for something like that is expensive by paying you 60 times more than the value. I mean, they needed the best stones, the best everything for the breastplate of the Kohen. So he tells them, I'm very, very sorry. You're going to have to wait. They saying, listen, we're fat. We came from Yerushalayim. He lived in Ashkelon. We don't have time. We came in, buy, out. We got to go to the Beit HaMikdash. Tells them, I can't help you right now because the keys to the safe where the stones are under the pillow of my father. My father's taking a nap. And under no circumstances I will try to take the keys out and chas v'shalom wake him up. They're telling him, we're offering you 600,000 gold bullions. Are you out of your mind? No, I have to pass. I will not wake up my father. They tell him, are you aware that there are other merchants that deal with stones? Not you, we go to the next one. He's like, I understand. I'm not going to wake up my father. And of course, they go and they buy from a different merchant. A year passes, and this individual, Dina ben Netina, was born in his cattle a red heifer. Was born in his cattle a red heifer. A red heifer. We have 10 red heifers. First one is Moshe Rabbeinu. 8 of them we had already in Beit HaMikdash. And the last one will be for Mashiach. This is at the time of Beit HaMikdash. Now a year passes. Whoop, what do you know? He looks in the backyard, a red heifer. He goes to the Chachamim. And in his mind, he can ask any amount he wants. You know from how much they'll buy the red heifer? But he only asks, he says, I know you want a red heifer. Of course, they ask him how much you want. He says, I only want what I lost last year. Which is a fraction of what he could have asked when just selling the red heifer. Somebody once told me, you want to make money? Honor your parents. So Rabbi Elazar, when he was asked the greatness of Kibud Av V'Em, he says, go and look at the story of Dana ben Netina. So if Dana received such a reward from honoring his father, that a year later he got a red heifer and he could have sold it to much more. Look at what great characteristics he had, what midot he had. He could have been greedy and say, I'll take triple, quadruple, 10 times more. But if Dinah received such a reward, what are we? That we are commanded on honoring our fathers. You know that the Bnei Noach are not commanded. It's not part of the seven laws of Noach to honor their father and mother. It's a zchut. You want, you do it, you get your reward for that. But you're not commanded. We are commanded. The Jews are commanded. We're not going to now start dissecting Kibud Av V'Em, but you can already realize by yourself, you need to start moving your rusty wheels in your mind. How are you working in regards to Kibud Av V'Em? And I know we all have issues with our parents. Our parents also have issues with their parents. And their parents also have issues with their parents. And I'm sure my kids will have issues with their parents. So the trick here as a parent, that's my goal in the last 20 years of being a parent, is how not to be a father with issue to my kids. So I'm not going to be the source of issues for my kids. That's where it stops. But nevertheless, when the Ramban, Nachmanides, was asked about Kibud Av V'Em, he says, Kabed et avicha v'et emecha leman yarichun yamecha. He quoted the 10 Commandments by saying, honoring your parents. Why? So you will live a long life. He was asked, how you live a long life by honoring your parents? So besides the fact, because I'm sure you know the great question of Acher, that he saw the kid falling from Shiluach HaKen, sending off the bird, and then he performed his father's wish, the 2 mitzvot that the Torah promises you, arichut yamim, long life. He saw the boy die in front of his eyes. He says, that's the Torah. Torah tells you, honor your parents and scare away off the mother of the birds, off the eggs. And these are the 2 mitzvot that will give you a long life. And the boy dies. So he became a apikoros. But Kibud Av V'Em, the Rambam says, how does the mitzvah, what does it mean that leman yarichun yamecha, that for the sake that your life will be long? He says, when your kids see you honoring your parents the right way, eventually they'll do that to you. And when you're old, that's when you need your children for many different ways, and they can make your life a little bit better, softer, help you in many different ways. If we're not experiencing that, then we have to reverse engineer now what's going on. But the healthy way for a person to die, I mean, again, it's a dream of every individual. I don't know how many of them achieve it. I hope I will achieve it. I hope Mashiach comes and I don't have to battle with it. But if I will, chas v'shalom, need to go all the way to the time of death and Mashiach is not here, my dream is to see my kids around me, my grandkids around me, and they're all in the same level of how I honor and respect my parents and grandparents, to see that to the generations down. That's the dream of every individual, that the kids really respect you, your wish, and then when you're old, then your life is different. And Rambam says that's the arichut yamim. And then instead of dying old, lonely, heartbroken, and many other problems, that you have this nachat, this joy that makes your days full and long. And like I said, if you are one that this doesn't apply to, we need to reverse engineer what's going on. If Yaakov was judged for 22 years of not honoring his parents, with that, I mean, when we're here to learn here, we're not here to insult anybody. But nevertheless, talking about kibud avim, I can tell you already from my dream as a father, as a we'll call it now as a head of a family, is to see my kids healthy, happy, marry off good spouses, raise their kids to the right path of the Torah, and seeing all of them, not one kid in Montreal, one in Rio de Janeiro, one in Sydney. I see sometimes families like that. That's not my dream. My dream is to have all my kids around me. And again, I'm not going to hold them down to the ground, but that's what I wish for. Now, if that's what I wish for, I'm telling you, me as myself, then I work towards that. I don't just sit and say, okay, that's what I want. You want your kids around you, you're going to need to invest a lot. That they'll want to be around you. That there's going to be a relationship. There's going to be communication. That there's going to be friendship, love, trust, and different opportunities. Not so simple. So that's my wish. I work towards that. And what is my emphasis is that I give example. Whatever I want to give over to my kids, I don't give them through the book. My wife is very upset at me. You need to learn more Torah with your boys. It's your boys. You learn Torah with other people, dafka with your boys. I says, my boys, I learn Torah the minimum that I need to, and the rest I teach them with my behavior. Not a book. The book will not teach them to behave. My behavior is going to teach them, will give them the example. When they see me being very courteous, very generous, very caring, that's how I teach them. When they see that I don't lie, that I don't come home and start talking Lashon Hara about the entire world, that I'm honest in business, that's how I teach my kids Torah. So, the message, what I do, goes over to the kids. And it's never too late. I mean, listen, when the kids are young, that's where you mold them. But the point is that you see where I'm going with it. The kibud avim is a very, very, very powerful thing. You know, in halakha, it says something very interesting. It says 2 laws in regards to honoring my parents in halakha. The first one is kabed avicha ve'imecha. A positive mitzvah, you have to honor your father and mother. And you know what, maybe one day, if you think it's needed, I'll do a class about this entire topic, because I think a lot of people are missing the kibud avim. They're nice to their parents. That's very nice of you. Half of the people of this world, I'm sure, as I know myself, have issue with their parents. One way or another. The father, the mother, there's always issues. You're not the only one. But nevertheless, there's ways how a person needs to apply the kibud avim in all as extreme as it is. Just the fact that it's in the 10 Commandments, that's enough for you to understand the significance. But now we have this message, this parasha that's coming to teach us. So maybe if it's needed, we'll do a class. But listen how the halakha addresses it. First, it gives you the positive commandment, kabed avicha ve'imecha. You have to honor your father and mother. First commandment. But it first says your father and then your mother. Kabed et avicha, honor your father, and then ve'imecha. Then there's another prohibition in regards to that it says, Ish imo v'aviv tirau. This can be found in the book of Vayikra, chapter 19, verse 3. Every man shall fear his mother and his father. The complete opposite. So when it comes to honoring, the father's first. When it comes to fearing, the mother's first. Why? Because honoring the father to the mother makes sense, right? Because the nature of a child is to honor the mother. She's loving, she gives all the food, she pampers, she's home all day long. So by default, the child honors the mother. He loves her. The father, he sees 2 minutes in the morning, 2 hours at night. The father doesn't do much. So by default, he honors the mother first. So the commandment comes and says, honor your father, because you have to honor him, even though you don't barely see him. And your mother, that by default you're honoring, then she comes next in the honoring. But in the fearing, the nature is that the child fears the father. You know, just the other day we talked about it. I don't even know how we got to that, but I'm sure it's like that in many houses. In my house, my kids, my mom, my wife's, there's no authority there. They will, you know, I don't know the words, but only if she mentions my name or my appearance, I don't need to be there even. Only the name Abba needs to be mentioned. That's it. So when we spoke about it the other day, because somebody sent us, you know, well, people send videos all day long. Believe it or not, I also get stupid videos all day long. But one of them was funny because it was like a simulation how a man is sleeping in bed, and in the background you hear fighting, screaming, things breaking, and it says my wife trying to get the kids to school while I'm trying to sleep, and somebody sent it to us, and we were laughing, and my wife says, yeah, I don't know, they listen. Why they listen to you? Why do I have to say 5 times the same thing, and I only say, I'll tell Abba, ooh. So the default here is that they're afraid of the father. Not that I'm some scary father, but I was also afraid of my father, and I loved my mother. That's how it worked. My mother, I had a lot of love to her and respect. She's the one who fed me, bathed me, clothed me, played with me, entertained me, etc., etc. My father, I was trembling. I was just, hear his voice, I was already going to, some mode. But nevertheless, in Yir'ah, when it comes to fearing, then first of all, by default, the child fears the father. So it says, when it comes to the mother, Ish imo v'aviv. When it comes to fearing, first the mother. So I want to move to a different part of the parasha that is all connected, just that you understand the shift suddenly. But we kind of can conclude the concept of kibud avim. Let's put this aside right now. We are introduced in the beginning of the parasha to a very interesting concept about the whole dialogue of Paro and all his workers. Paro wakes up, he has a crazy dream, he asks everybody comes with all the explanations, nobody makes sense, Paro is going crazy, and then comes the Sarah Mashkim, and I don't know how to call him, the translation says chief cupbearer. I don't know, the drunk of the palace, the one who pours the cocktails, the bartender. Apparently Paro had a drinking issue, and every time, give me a martini, give me something, a whiskey on the rocks, and the guy would... That's my additions, that's not Rashi. But nevertheless, we are introduced to this entire concept. Then Sarah Mashkim, the chief cupbearer, comes and he starts talking about Yosef. Et chata'i ani mazkir hayom. I'm now bringing up my sins, but there was this guy with us, a Hebrew boy in the jail. And he starts talking about Yosef, and quickly, of course, Paro says, bring Yosef out. But you have to pay attention to something here. And everything is tied together. Nothing is by chance. The parashot are organized in a very specific way. So we have to see when we have different, I taught that many, many times. When there's different messages in the same parasha, they're all connected to each other. Because then the parasha, Hashem chose for those messages to be in the same parasha. Not the same chapter, in the same weekly portion. So, pay attention to how Sarah Mashkim is talking about Yosef. Nar Ivri. Like bezilzul, like with so disrespect. The translation, Hebrew lad. The junk of the junk. He's a slave to a minister. Then he says, after that, Rashi says on that, Na'ar, like a lad, shoteh, a fool. Lo ra'u legdula, he's not worth for anything. What is it the business of Sarah Mashkim to badmouth Yosef? You helping Paro, you coming and saying the guy solved the dreams. He's a piece of junk, third-class citizen. He's a fool, he's a lad, a teenager. Then, on that, by the way, Rashi says something interesting. Arurim reshaim she'en tovatam shlema. These are how you see a wicked individual. That's when you can kind of see the difference between people. When you see this type of behavior, that's a rasha, that's a wicked individual. Why do you have to add the deficiencies of Yosef? You want to help your king? So what's your motive here? What's the behavior? Later, he says first a na'ar, a teenager, then he says ivri, like a Hebrew. Saying in other words, he doesn't speak our language even. He's some peasant, like how does Trump say? Immigrant? He's an immigrant. He doesn't even have a green card. He's an illegal immigrant. Then he says he's a slave. Saying in other words, he cannot be a king. He cannot wear like clothes of a minister. We take from that already that he's trying to help Paro, but he's making Yosef this big. First, on the first encounter, you see very bad character traits. You're trying to help here, but you're belittling Yosef on the other side. So we can derive from that there was obviously some type of jealousy and some type of sense of who can maybe get a different position. Maybe this bartender wanted to get a higher position. Why should Yosef get the higher position than me? You see the politics, how even then, and in the house of Paro, the politics. And everybody's stabbing each other's back to get one step forward. A person who's a good-hearted person wants the good for any individual. If you find yourself wishing bad to another person, then you're going to have to start questioning how good you are. And I know each and every one of us has one person in their life that you have all your rights to ask bad for him or her. Right? Should we make a survey? I guarantee to you, I am 80 to 90% right. 80 to 90% will say yes. There's at least one person in this world that I would love to see suffer. And I'm not talking now about a terrorist. Don't come and tell me now some world leader or I don't know, Bill Gates or something. I'm not talking about somebody in your life. Right now. That you would love to close your eyes and hope that he will suffer till the last day of his life, he or she. I also have a few that I can put on a list. My list will be pretty long, by the way. But I don't have that list because I don't want anything bad to happen to anyone. And I'll explain very soon, Techav, you'll see what Yosef is telling us. If you wish bad to anyone, stop the video now and start meditating on the fact that you wish something bad on somebody else. I know that person cheated you, stabbed you in your back, trashed you, took your money, made your life a miserable hell. Oh, I know, I have a few of them in my life. But that doesn't mean that I need to wish for them bad. Let's continue, and I'll go back to, you hold this thought, what I'm talking about. And then you'll see what I'm trying to convey. But let me just repeat my saying, a good person wants the good for every individual. He looks at another person, just wants good for them. That's a real good-hearted individual. That's for you as a title. When the Ramban was asked about the great mitzvah of Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you should love a fellow individual like you love yourself. Many different interpretations, many different ways of explaining it. I told you already that my wife came with this brilliant enlightenment on this, which I explained it more in length, but the Ve'ahavta l'reacha has to be read with a comma. It has to be read Ve'ahavta l'reacha, comma, kamocha. Now the meaning is a little bit different. Ve'ahavta l'reacha, you should love another individual, kamocha, like Hashem loves that individual. You understand? It's not like how you love yourself. Obviously, Hashem loves everybody, right? I might not like you. Not you, but I'm saying I might not like you. But Hashem loves you. So, ve'ahavta le'acha kamocha, love that person like Hashem loves that person. So that kind of brings us back to what I was saying. A good person, I have all the reasons in the world not to like you, but I wish for you the best. The Ramban says something very, very interesting. He says, why doesn't it say ve'ahavta et reacha? Grammatically, it makes much more sense to say in Hebrew ve'ahavta et reacha. You should love your fellow friend. Et. Not le'reach, to. Grammatically in Hebrew doesn't make sense. It would make much more sense to say ve'ahavta et reacha. You should love your fellow person like yourself. The Ramban says le'reacha, to your friend, tohav sheyeh le'reacha tov. You should love that your fellow individual should be good. Don't wish bad to anybody. That's ve'ahavta le'reacha kamocha, according to what the Rambam says. The same way that you wish yourself good. You wake up in the morning and you say, Hashem, today I want a car accident. Nobody wishes to themselves anything bad. Unless, I don't know, I mean, if you know somebody like that, it will be interesting to meet. I don't know, a person that goes to the kotel or the kever of tzaddik and start praying, I need a car accident, I need the IRS on my back, I need to, the roof should fall down. You wish yourself only good things. So, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, the same way that you're wishing for yourself good things, wish for also the people you hate good things. Let me tell you a secret, because I have a lot of people that I have a lot of reasons why not to like them. But when I learn to wish good for them, it works. You know why? Because when their life is good, they're not looking at you with jealousy and hate and all the ayn hara and everything. So it actually works perfect. It actually works perfect. When I had to move away from me some individuals that caused a lot of hardship in my life, I only prayed for their benefit. Because when they're happy, they're healthy, they're making money, their mind is occupied with their success. So they're not jealous of me, and they're not slandering me, and they're not looking at me be'ayn tzara, in a narrow eye, and they're not trashing me, and they're not... You understand the common sense here? Now wait. First of all, let me just elaborate on what I'm saying, because I'm just telling you now a very simple but yet powerful message. Write it down. If you don't apply what I'm saying, you're really missing the whole point. Gadol HaTalmud HaMavih L'Dei Maaseh. When is the Talmud, when is the learning great? When you know how to apply it right away. Then your learning is valuable. Just to learn and then it stays in some cell in your brain doesn't mean anything. The point is, what I'm saying to summarize the Divrei Rambam, what the Ramban says, is that you need to wish good for another person, even if they did bad to you. To wish good for the ones you love, that's a given. I pray every day. that my parents should be healthy, have a long, easy life, smooth life. I pray for my wife, I pray for my kids, I pray for my in-laws. There's a lot of people I pray for every day. Needless to say, every day I get emails, pray for Moshe ben Chaim and this, and Ilui Nishmat. But I learned when you pray for other people, that's when you get everything you need, by the way. It's better to pray for other people's problems. Now that I'm telling you from my experience. So to pray for other people that you love, that's not the big deal. Pray for people who you don't really like. But now I'm coming and telling you, that's the trick here. You want to get rid of people who annoy you in your life, pray for their benefit. Because when they're happy, when they're content, when they're healthy, they'll get off your back. It's miserable people who come to suckle your energy with all this nonsense. I'll give you a quick example, and then I'll go to the point what I want to relay. And what I'm telling you now is a true story that I overheard. But there was once a certain individual lived here in Israel in a very religious neighborhood, and he was a very innocent type of individual. The neighbor one day came to him and bechavanat chila, with an intention to cheat him, and came and told him, listen, I'm in financial stress and I need a very large amount of money. I'm not asking you to give me the money, I'm just asking if you can sign to be a co-signer on taking a loan from the Gmach. Now the Gmach, just that you understand how it works, let's say I open this type of Gmach, then you all donate money. Let's say you 1,000, you 1,000, you 1,000, you 1,000. Now I have in the Gmach's bank 20,000 shekels, dollars, whatever. Then you come and say, I need to marry off my child, I need to buy tefillin to my son's bar mitzvah, whatever. Not going to a vacation in the Caribbean. I need help. Then the Gmach will write out the loan to this individual. The individual needs to bring not witnesses, signers, 2, 3, whatever. And then the Beit Din says, okay, then you pay it a year, 2 years, whatever. It's like a biblical way of giving loans. And of course, you need a system and you need to trust the person and so forth. Nevertheless, the guy was a crook. He convinced this good-hearted individual to sign as a co-signer for 20,000 loan that he's pulling from the Gmach. The only thing that the honest, poor individual didn't know, that this guy did it to a few other people. And then he went and forged the paper, and instead of 20,000, it said 100,000. And needless to say, he took the money from the Gmachs and disappeared. A few months later, no person, they go to the, it's not only it's not a co-signer, it's actually called a guarantor. A rev. So, okay, maybe I'm using the wrong term, but a guarantor. So they go to the guarantor and they go to this man. You owe us 100,000 shekels. 100,000 shekels? But I signed for 20. He says, no, but he changed it to 100. They went to a Beit Din, they went Shelot Chacham. You can't even imagine. And it doesn't matter because what it said on they found him legally, halachically, he has to pay 100,000 shekels. Okay, he goes to his wife and he tells her, listen, honey, doesn't matter how right now, we have 100,000 shekel debt. I'm going to need to make a lot of installments. And we have to live very simple for the next, year or two. Cut off this, cut that, no this, no that. Okay, a while down the line, the wife of this poor individual goes on a trip to America. It's almost too story, by the way. Goes on a trip to America, somehow is invited to some local wedding. She comes to the wedding. Who does she see? That neighbor. Now, all that time, the wife asked the husband, how did we get this 100,000 shekel debt? So he told her everything that happened. So she tells him, who is it? He's like, no, I don't want to tell you. It's Lashon Hara. For months, the wife is like, I want to know who did it to us. He's like, I can't tell you. It's Lashon Hara. A year or two later, I don't know all the details exactly. This woman is in America, somehow ends up in some wedding, and she sees the wife of the crook in that wedding. The wife doesn't know anything about her. She comes to her, hi, hugs her, how are you? Where are we? Miss you since you left. She's hugging her and praising her. And this woman is like, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. She doesn't even know it's us. She goes to the husband and tells her husband, listen, I can't. You have to give them back the money. I can't. At least to them give back the money. She doesn't even know it's us. And they end up giving them back the money. And she came clean. The wife of the crew came and told her, listen, I see you don't know anything that's going on here. It was my husband that did that at the time. We want to give you back the money. And she got back the money. Let's stop here for a second. The thing is, what do you take from such of a story? First of all, you see what's the power of Lashon Hara. You see what's the power of this guy. It's not only the Lashon Hara that he didn't want to talk. The fact that he didn't like talk Lashon Hara, that was huge. He didn't want something bad to happen to another person that caused him not to talk Lashon Hara. What was the obvious result? That Hashem turned it around and he got his money back. Now let me tell you something. Now let me give you the juice of the message. Different story in the Parasha. It says that for Yosef, right before the famine came, was born 2 kids. Right? Menashe. And it says, ליוסף נולדו 2 בנים, בטרם תבוא שנת הרעב, before the famine came, 2 boys were born to Yosef, אשר ילדה לו אסנת. That Osnat gave birth to. Osnat, of course, is the adopted daughter of Potiphar. The Osnat is the daughter of Dinah. Dinah was raped by Shem, and there was a daughter from that, and that's the daughter of Dinah. Okay, so he has 2 kids. The first one is Menashe, and the second one is Ephraim. And he says why he called them that. So he says, why did I call my son Menashe? God has caused me to forget all my father's house. What? That's how you call your firstborn son? What kind of an explanation is that? Last week, all the tribes were born. There was all sorts of explanation. Now Menashe is born. Yosef says, I called him Menashe, ki nashani Elokim mi bet avi, because Hashem caused me to forget all the troubles that I went through with my father's house. Saying in other words, 22 years, also Yosef went through hardship. Can you imagine a 17-year-old lives in Beverly Hills and then he gets abducted by his own family and they send him to Afghanistan and he lives in some cave. He was the son of Yaakov. I'm telling you, he lived in Beverly Hills wherever they lived. Not a physical Beverly Hills, but Yaakov was very wealthy. He lived in a very wealthy setting. By the way, when somebody, I'm totally taking a side note here because I forgot to mention it before when I was saying, why did Yosef not try to attempt to look for Yaakov? There is one commentary that says that they were constantly moving. So anywhere that he went, even if he went, he would miss them. Because Yaakov kept moving, they weren't in the same place. So they kept moving all the time. They didn't have drones and to start searching. The search would be very difficult. Okay, I don't accept this commentary. If you want, you can get something done. It was 9 years. From the time Yosef was king till the time of the famine, 9 years. But nevertheless, let's go back to what I was talking about. What kind of an explanation is the Torah giving me that he says that I forgot all the troubles that I had in my father's house? Because Yosef, after all, went through the abduction, which I'm sure was horrible, then all the way to Mitzrayim, then all the tests in Mitzrayim, then in jail, and this is not some jail that you make a degree. This is some pit under the ground, and Hashem Merachem what's going on there. Yosef says, the sorrow that I went through and all the sorrow that was caused for me in because of my father's house. Because don't forget that even when he lived in his father's house, he was bullied by his brothers. Maybe he lived in Beverly Hills, but he had brothers that bothered him all day long. I have kids, and I also see a lot of kids like to bully other kids, and when one kid gets bullied, that's not fun. And what does Yosef says? All this I forgot. No, that's not nice. What do you mean you forgot? That's not so clear. The explanation says, so much sorrow was caused to Yosef, but it's like as if he didn't remember it. Kind of like he pushed it away to the side, and I don't need to remember the horrors of what I went through. Because really we're talking here about 22 years, minus 9, because 9, his life was, let's call it kind of okay. But then you still have 17 plus the years before that. But Yosef says, I don't remember. It's like out of my mind. Basically, this message is very, very powerful, what Yosef is telling us. Yosef is telling us that he had such emunah and such bitachon, such faith and such trust in Hashem that he didn't feel for 1 second in those 20 years that anything that happened to him was the act of another human. Do you understand what Yosef is telling us? All his suffering he never attributed to anyone. That's exactly what we just read now, what I told you a second ago. What the Rambam says, "V'ahavta lecha kamocha." You need to reach to a place that you wish only good for another person. If you are in a place that somebody did bad to you and you wish them bad, you're in a very low level. I'm sorry, trust me, I have a lot of people that if I would use exactly what I'm telling now in a lower level approach, I would pray all day long for the suffering of many. And I'm not talking about terrorists now. I'm talking about people who backstab me, use me, trash my name, slander me, whatever. The list is very long. When I ask myself, why do I need to deal with these two people, with these type of people? A, to apply what I'm telling you now, that even when people do bad things to you, Yosef's brothers sold him. They wanted to kill him. And in his mind, no human did anything wrong to him. Elokim shelachani po lemichya. He tells them, are you out of your mind? You think you sent me here? Hashem sent me to Mitzrayim to become a king. It didn't even occur to Yosef that the human involvement in anything that happened to him is the responsibility of another individual. Everything was Hashem. He understood that the act of the person is irrelevant. And why should I pray for bad for them? You understand the level of Yosef and the depths what he's teaching us here? Yosef did not have any anger and any grudge in his heart. We call Yosef a tzaddik because we attribute to the fact that he was able to hold his brit, guard the covenant. Young man, no boundaries, nobody looking, no surveillance cameras. The most gorgeous woman in the world is tempting him, and he's able to hold. And in many other situations, as being an attractive individual, and the commentary explains he was an attractive young man. Women threw themselves at him like iron, held his weight. That's why we call him Yosef a tzaddik. Why don't you call him Yosef a tzaddik for that? For not having any anger and any grudge to anyone. Can you imagine? I know you all deal with bad things in your life. Everyone here, if we would give you the stage and a microphone, 3 minutes, tell me the person that is bittering your life, you would need 3 hours, not 3 minutes. But today you need to make a complete shift by saying that person that is doing all these bad things in my life, took my money, cheated me out of my money, whatever it is. Listen, I hear all the stories all day long of things that I'm like, but each and every one of us has at least one, if not 20 individuals that you can gladly pull the trigger or press some button for that person to explode and die in complete agony and pain and suffering. But no, that's a very low level way of looking at things. If you hold yourself as a Torah observant individual and you make the effort to sit here a whole hour and to listen to the class or on the video, it doesn't matter, and your point is to refine yourself, grow spiritually. I mean, after, why are you sitting here? Long time ago, I stopped serving food. Once, we used to bring all the time food and cookies and rogalach, and I said, okay, you know, people come, they want a coffee, have a croissant, but then people come for the food. One time I didn't bring, where's the food? No, today's only Torah. What? I was counting my breakfast here. So obviously you come. So why do you come? You're not bored. You come because you need to hear some common sense tools how to apply and change my life. So you sat here a whole hour. If you find yourself in a place that somebody does something bad to you and you're still angry, that's a problem. You have to take the Yosef approach. Hashem made everything disappear. I can only, tell you things about myself. I too had a pretty interesting life. Somehow, Hashem took me on a very interesting life. I did many different things, encountered many different situations. I have a pretty interesting life. I'm actually happy about it. And that's why I'm telling you this right now. If you look back in my life, there were many, many years of struggle, of pain, of almost loss of hope, challenges that's very, very difficult. As I was going through the challenge, depending on which level of my religious life, but nevertheless, in the later years, when I learned to know that there's a Hashem, then I gave all the tribute to Hashem. The challenges is for Hashem. But why am I trying to tell you that? That many of my dreams, many of my aspirations, many of my goals, many of my plans did only come to fruition recently, and will start coming now. And why? Because before you get to a level that you reach to your potential, you have to go through a very long period of climbing. You're not going to become your full potential in 2 years or 20 years or 30 years, depending on how the level of your climbing. I see now that with all the hardship that I had to go through now, looking back, everything, the view looks completely different. When you're standing at the bottom of the mountain and you're looking up, you're full of energy. You are, in Hebrew we say, Chadur b'matara. I'm locked on the target. I'm climbing now this mountain. I have all the energy, all the might, all the excitement, but the mountain looks from different angle. Once you start climbing the mountain, you start getting tired, weaker. At some point you sit and rest. It's not so easy as you thought. Suddenly it's colder than you thought. There's not enough food. But you're locked on the target. When you get to the top and you look down, the way up looks completely different. On the way up, you are experiencing all the difficulties. Looking from above, you don't remember the difficulties. You're enjoying your reward of being on the top. So why am I happy now to say I understand what I had to go through 20, 30 years of all sorts of difficulties? Sometimes I look back, I don't understand. I had to go through this specific challenge. And trust me, I went through pretty extreme things. Now when I'm looking back, I'm not saying I'm on top on the mountain yet. But I'm far up on the mountain to look back and say, I don't remember so much the way up. I need to remind myself the stops on the way up. I just look at, wow, look how far I got. So, Yosef is teaching us, I think, one of the most powerful lessons to be successful. More than that, if you remember, we started the class with this uncertainty. Most people, they have this uncertainty because they give too much emphasis to the actions of people around them. Instead of being locked on Hashem and saying, whatever Hashem wants to happen, that's what's going to happen. The challenges are going to come anyways. Better to accept them. And more than that, when a person wants to be successful in business, in relationships, everything that I just told you now, that's the key to find your certainty. Like Yosef, is to understand that everything was Hashem's doing. To reach to a point that you have no grudge in your heart. Because like I told you, you stop the video now, we're done the class, you go home, start thinking a little bit. You're going to have to think, who do I hold grudge against? Now if you don't hold grudge against anyone, then you achieved a lot. Now you have to see if you really don't have any anger towards any other person, and then start praying for those people. Pray for the people that you don't like. And you want to reach to a point that you're praying for the well-being of others. And again, I'm excluding here terrorists, rapists, liberals. Stop, I'm joking. Smolanim, no, I'm joking. But I'm excluding all the psychopaths. But anybody else, you have to change completely your approach. Because a person that holds grudge inside their heart, he hurts himself. That's the first thing that I realized when my spiritual eyes opened up, because I was the master of holding grudge. You looked at me the wrong way, I would remember it to you for 20 years. Not to talk about if you cheated me on money or harmed me in one way or another. I held such grudge and such revenge to people. And when I started becoming observant, you know, one of the first prayers that you are acquainted with, Kriyat Shema Lamita, you have to declare by saying, Hareni mochel v'soleach lechol mi she'chis oti. I'm here declaring that I am forgiving any person that angered me and did anything bad to me, ben begufi, ben bemamoni, whether it's my money, whether it's my body. It took a while, but I understood that me holding grudge towards another person, I am the one who gets the damage, not you. If I'm angry at you and I'm holding the grudge, you don't care. You don't lose sleep over it. I'm the one who's carrying this. So, to conclude altogether, we had three different aspects that we covered in this class. The first, we explained about the Kibud Orim. Why is it so significant that we understand that Yaakov had to go through that? Because he missed. Kadosh Baruch Hu is very particular with tzaddikim. Kadosh Baruch Hu medakdekim tzaddikim kechut ha'se'ara. Kadosh Baruch Hu is particular with tzaddikim like the length, the width of a hair. You think Yaakov is worthy of coming to the heavens and they're telling him after 100 and plus years, no, you 22 years you didn't do Kibbud Avim, you have to go back. That, first of all, should answer you 99% of the question of why do I deserve it? You did something. Because when you are experiencing these people who are bothering you, why do I deserve it? Well, obviously you did something. Get off your high horse, reverse engineer what you're dealing with. You must have done something. And as long as the candle is lighting, you can fix. Somebody sent me this emotional video the other day, and it was very nice because the individual lost his father, and he recorded like this whatever message about how he wished he could say certain things to his father. And the message of the video was like, it could be with a son to a father, it could be with anyone. The message was, don't wait, don't hold yourself from fixing things, saying things, showing appreciation, forgiving a person. Don't wait till the person doesn't exist anymore. And the message is powerful because you want to do things now, not to wait. So when we want to summarize the three topics we covered, we talked about honoring parents, loving another person like you love yourself, which of course in it we explains not the love per se, rather that I want good for you. And the example I chose to give you was Lashon Hara. When you decide to trash another person, can you imagine that husband just telling the wife, oh, it was so-and-so? She wouldn't hold herself. She would go and say, what so-and-so did to us? And then you have a whole Lashon Hara case on your back. Okay, so you did something bad to me. It doesn't mean that you need to know. You need to know that something bad happened. It doesn't matter who happened. My wife gets very upset at me when she asks who, and I'm like, I'm not telling you who. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'll tell you what happened, but not who. And the last topic that we closing the circle with the approach of Yosef is emunah and bitachon, is the belief that everything that happens in your life is Hashem. He chooses who's going to do it to you. That's why half the people in this world have issues with their parents, because the kids think the parents did something to them. And then, of course, you think your parents did something to you. You got to let you got to let things go. I find that the message here that we read with Yaakov, nothing is going here without the connection to the next thing. You have to take all of it together. When my life is a little bit chaotic, and when I want to achieve things, when I want blessings in my life, with good parnasa, with achieving my challenges, this is the key to release you from all your hardship that you're holding in your heart. All the negativity that comes towards you, that's your preparation for greatness. Hashem is not going to crown you with a beautiful crown before He worked you out and squeezed you a little bit. You have to be worthy for that. You don't just inherit to wear Hashem's crown. He wants to give you success in something, and every person, their success is somewhere else. And Hashem says, well, first you're going to have to sweat a little bit. And then you have to work out for that. And you're going to have to suffer for that. So you will appreciate it. And on the way for the suffering, don't be angry at all the people who are now putting, sticks in your wheels. And then are putting all these obstacles. I sent them. I sent them to make you stronger. To make you believe more in me. To make you more observant. To have more hope. More focus. Don't be upset at these people. Hold your emunah and bitachon. That's Hashem telling you, I'm taking you to a greater level. So why should I hold anything negative in myself? And that's where you see that Yosef is giving us the ultimate example. He didn't hold any grudge. He swallowed the bitter pill. He didn't know necessarily when going to be the end. Okay, so he can depend on his prophetic dreams that he will be the ruler. But Yosef's image is coming to telling you, when you have emunah in Hashem, that everything is coming from Hashem, and you don't throw your dirty laundry at all the world, and you believe that everything comes from Hashem, and you see other people as individuals, and you want for their benefit, then you'll reach to this levels that Yosef reached. Greatness, he was in politics, in richness, in family, everything. Yosef really is a true example of a perfect individual. That's why he's called a tzaddik. So now the point is, what do you do with this information? Do you let it fly over your head? Or you take a few moments to think, okay, what is the journey that Hashem is taking me in my life? I already now, I'm hoping I will live till 120. I'm more hoping Mashiach will come and we don't have to deal with death. But recently I've celebrated a half of a decade. I turned 50 a few months ago. And now I can easily say, looking back 50 years, 45. But en chacham keba'al nisayon. And when I look back now at all the stations that I had to stop on my mountain going up, I didn't still reach the top. I'm still climbing. But when I look back, what I achieved, what I was able to achieve. And I can tell you that every stop that kind of stopped me, a certain challenge, now I'm able to see that individual is just a player in the game. He has no connection for me hating that individual. And I can attribute the jumps of success for letting go and not holding people accountable for their actions. How did somebody told me not too long ago? I didn't get disappointed from so-and-so because I have zero expectations. So that's a nice approach. Don't have any expectations, you're not going to get disappointed. So in many times in life, you have to have not to have any expectations. That way you assuring yourself you're not going to get disappointed. But the message you want to take from this powerful sequence in the Torah is that, like Yosef HaTzadik, you put all the responsibility to Hashem. You let go of everything that anybody ever done to you. You pray for the benefit and the good of others. And in all that, which we'll have to address in a completely different time, is understanding this equation, the honoring of your parents' work. That is a very good sequence, a good nuskha, a good recipe for your own success.